Hello and welcome to Do Good Podcasts with myself, Rob Watson. And in this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Stephen Yip, who is the founder and CEO of children's charity HowKIND in Liverpool, where for the past 43 years, he's dedicated his life to helping tens of thousands of children from underprivileged backgrounds through his amazing educational programs that he runs at the Seed Centre, as well as his yearly Christmas appeal. Stephen's got a wealth of knowledge and experience which he shares in depth in this interview, from how to actually set up a charity and how that all unfolded all them years ago, to the journey he's gone on, and also some really inspiring stories. We also talk at length about the Christmas Appeal campaign, which is now in its 43rd year, where they aim to deliver 1,000 hampers across the region to disadvantaged children and their families so they can actually, enjoy this time of year. There's no doubt in my mind that Stephen is an absolute saint for everything he's done and everything he continues to do each day through his work with this charity. I felt really inspired after doing this interview with him, and I was very much thinking about, what more can I do? So if you can, please listen right to the end, because I've decided to do my own bit and get involved in HowKIND's Christmas Appeal, and there's ways how you can potentially get involved if you feel the call. So anyway, on to the interview. Thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate you taking part in the podcast today.
It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, I first found out about you guys a few years ago, hearing about what you've been doing and stuff, and then I made the decision last Christmas to, rather than buy my family, friends and family sort of expensive gifts that they necessarily don't need, I decided to make a donation here instead, and it sort of goes to your Christmas fund, which felt good.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people do that, which is great, because this year, 2018, is our 43rd Christmas appeal, which I can't believe really, but that's we've been going since 1975, and the Christmas appeal is very special to me because it really helps us to make a major difference, and it gives the families something to remember and not to forget, because I think we've all had a bad Christmas, and it's one of those things you don't want to keep on bringing up. But for a lot of our families, they have constantly bad Christmases. So if we can stop it and give them an amazing Christmas and one to remember, that's a bonus.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, it does. It feels really good, and seeing everything that you've been doing over the years it's really impressive. So I'm sat here doing this with you in HowKIND Seed Centre.
Yep. And
it's a really impressive space. I remember coming around here first time and seeing it, and the setup.
We've been here now since 1997, so this is our 21st birthday, which is amazing again. I can't believe we've been here. I can remember coming in and doing the security checks when the builders were here in 98, but it's a wonderful venue, and it's in a back street. People it is weird to watch people's reactions, because they walk down this cobbled back road and then they suddenly are hit by this purpose-built environmental education centre, and the reaction is, wow, what's this doing here? And how did it get here? Because it is, as you say, it's a little hidden gem. It's got the solar panels, it's got the wind turbine, the grey water recycle. We have our own bees, we've got a dipping pond, we've got an allotment area, all within a very small inner city space.
Yeah, it is. It's truly impressive, and like you say, it is hidden gem, just tucked away. But yeah, it's a great space. So for people who may not be a little bit aware of HowKIND, the charity itself, could you just give us a little general overview of what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, we've changed. We began our life as a registered charity. We were registered Christmas Eve 1975, and our main remit then was residential. We wanted to give children who were disadvantaged in a variety of ways the opportunity to experience another side of life, and that was residential. So from 1975 to 2002, the bulk of our work was taking children out of Liverpool and Merseyside up to Scotland. And then in 2002, we moved back to Liverpool, because we'd already had the Seed Centre since 97, and we were open 1998 for our first children. And the Seed Centre is non-residential. It's all about environmental and social education, with Key Stage 1 and 2, 5 to 11, 5 to 12, with 11 weeks of out-of-school programme. And so we concentrated, when we sold the property in Scotland, we used all the money to invest in the Seed Centre. So we've now got classrooms here, we've got the roof garden, we've got the open spaces, the allotment, and it's all about giving children an opportunity to learn more about their environment and how they can help. We've also, over the years, we've also brought in a number of projects, one of which is called Healthy Futures, which is all about teaching children where food comes from, why food is good for us, what food does for us, and also about exercise, why we need to get our heart rate beat up. But it can be, you can dance, you can run up and down stairs, you don't have to run a marathon or be an amazing footy player. It is about getting your heart beat up and why that's good for us. We also do something called Same But Different, which is about diversity in the broadest sense. And the last 18 months, we've launched a program about mindfulness. So it's a 2-day course aimed at reception up to year 6. And it's really, really worked well. Whole schools have come, every class has done the 2 days. And the evaluation and the responses have been wonderful, not only from the children, but also from the staff who were with them. So HowKIND, we're a small organisation. We have a team of 7, lots of volunteers, but we try and reach out to as many children and as many families as possible.
It sounds incredible, some of the things you're doing, and it appears that, particularly saying like the mindfulness side of things and the healthy futures, teaching people about the environment, is something that tends to be maybe lacking in traditional schools as such.
Yeah, we're great believers in small class teaching. So we will work with a whole class, and then we will split that class into a number of smaller groups so that every child in that class is getting the attention they need. I mean, to me, this is true education. I really believe in first world countries, we should be having class sizes of 12, 16, because that way every single child benefits. We can see a difference in a child in 5 days. When you have a member of the team sitting on every table, the behaviour improves dramatically, the attention improves dramatically, and I think more importantly, the child's self-confidence improves dramatically because someone's listening, someone's encouraging, and they actually start to feel, you know what, I'm good at this. I can answer that question. And so within our small classes, by the end of 5 days, our children have learnt an awful lot. And it's also very practical here. It's very hands-on. So our kids are not just sitting in the classroom for an hour and then going out for break. They're moving around our centre. They're in the roof garden, they're with the bees, they're on the first floor classroom, they're outside by the dipping pond. So it's all about trying to keep on motivating and encouraging their enthusiasm and their interest. And it works for us. It really does. Whether that could work in a school, I'm not sure. But I know from us, the evaluations we get from the kids, from the teachers, from visiting staff, it's all very, very positive.
Yeah, totally. And as you say there about the space, I think this space plays a huge role in it. Obviously, your ethos and how you're doing it in the approach it, but I think the space as well, it seems very well set up, very well laid out.
Yeah.
There's good outside space. As you say, you've got the bees and there's the resident little Shih Tzu, Benji.
Yeah, the dog, Benji. Well, the Benji's great. Benji's been with us for just under a year now, and he's a really great tool for learning, because a lot of children come to us, especially children who perhaps have come from another country where the habit of owning dogs is not acceptable or is not encouraged, and they're very scared at first. And Benji's a little cuddly teddy bear Shih Tzu basically, who they all love and they all stroke him. By the end of the week, they're all stroking him, they're all getting him, sitting him on their knee and everything. So it really is a great way of bringing them into, encouraging them to like dogs as well. And I think for us, anywhere within our centre, you're only 10 seconds from the outside, whether that's on the balcony, whether that's on the roof garden, or as you say, whether that's in the main garden itself. So our children have always got access to the outside, and they can see the outside from every area within our centre. And that was a deliberate planning factor for us. We wanted as much natural light as possible, and we wanted our children to be able to see outside as much as possible, so they could see the trees, they could see, the plants and the pond, because I think, for a lot of kids, they don't get this sort of experience, and that's what we want for them.
So what sort of kids tend to come here? And
we on our programme, so for instance, we have 11 weeks of out of school programme, which is all the school holidays. Every child who comes to that is either known to the charity to be in need or is referred by another organisation. So we will work with 30, 40 organisations in a year who refer children. So Women's Aid, Drugs Unit, social work, schools, community groups, churches, homeless unit. It's the whole range of organisations who work with children and families in need. And that's very similar to the Christmas appeal, because obviously we work with, last year we helped, in 2017, we helped over 8,000 children and families. Sorry, 9,000. Blimey, I'm doing us down there. Over 9,000 children and families at Christmas, making a difference. This year we're hoping for exactly the same numbers, if not more. But we can't do that ourselves, so we have to work with other groups. They refer the families. We do all the fundraising and the packing, and they do the distribution. So we're getting to as wider community as possible, and hopefully getting to those families most in need. But in terms of the school programme and the out of school programme, it is about children who mightn't get these sort of experiences, because a big part of our philosophy and our remit is to give children the experience of another side of life, to show them there's more to life, there's more to them. So that's what it's all about for us. We want to inspire, we want to give our kids the knowledge that they can be different. Because for a lot of our children, and this is the saddest thing that I've always found in 43 years, a lot of our children, very few adults speak with them. They speak to them, but they don't speak with them, and they don't listen. Now, we place great emphasis on talking with our children and also listening. But don't get me wrong, we run a very structured ship here. Our children know we have a behaviour code. They know what our rules are, because it's about, we want our children to start learning those social skills which will make them great adults and great young people. And sadly, a lot of our children are not picking up those skills from home or anywhere else. And I think every single child, whether they're yours or mine, they need to have a foundation. If they're going to turn into the sort of caring, mature, lovely people that we would be happy and proud to know, they have to have a foundation. And if you can put that foundation in at the very earliest stage, it's a lot easier for them.
Absolutely. And I've seen on your website, on some of the videos of some past students that have come through, or kids, and they're now much older, and they talk like how much of a difference it made to them when they were young. I think that just shows the proof's in the pudding, what that's done for them. Yeah,
it's hard for me, because I've always been here. I've stayed with the organisation for 43 years, so I still remember these adults as children. But it is lovely. When we were 40, we had lots and lots of wonderful emails and letters from people who, themselves are in their 40s, they've got their own children, and it was just wonderful to hear that, they really appreciated, and they really got something from the residential, or coming to club, or even, we had some people who said, what, you gave me the best Christmas I've ever had in my childhood. And it's very moving, that, and it's very emotional. And it's not me that's doing it. It's the teams that have existed since 1975. But more importantly, it's the donors and the supporters, because we live on their kindness. We don't get central local government money. We're a traditional fundraising organisation, and without the support of our donors and our friends, we could achieve very little. But thanks to their support, we've lasted for 43 years. We're coming to the end of our 43rd year, and we've made a difference. Now, I'm not going to sit here with you and say, oh yeah, we're the best thing since sliced bread. We're not, because there's lots of little organisations like us who are doing little bits and making a difference in their communities. And that's what I'm happy to do. We're not a big charity. We're a small organisation, we're grassroots, and we can see the difference that we make, and we can work with families and individuals and children, and we can say to them, look, we can help you. And we do. But it's only because of our friends and supporters, because if they suddenly stopped giving to us, very quickly we would be finished.
Yeah, and I think just going back in terms of you talking about the people that have come through and hear them stories, I suppose because you've been in it every day for 43 years, maybe sometimes you can kind of get swept up in the day-to-day, but to hear them stories of the difference it's made kind of maybe makes some of the challenging days at times, which I'm sure there's been plenty of them, makes it all worth it.
Yeah. No, well, I'll give you an example. 97, we were at the centre. That was the first year. We took control in the summer. The building work had begun because we'd promised the council we would be open by the summer of 1998. And because I live locally, every night during the winter I would come over and check security, And I remember this one night, because in those days this area was Liverpool's red light area. All the girls and the drugs used to happen around here. And I remember coming in one night, it was November the 5th, bombing night, and I was just coming to check that everything was okay, and I could see a young woman waving at me. Now, I've got a brother who's an ex-superintendent who used to say to me, Stephen, whatever you do, don't make contact and do not talk to these girls, because, sometimes the police operate a sting system. So anyway, I was ignoring her. But, from the corner of your eye, you can see someone moving towards you. So I was like, stepping up my walking speed, and then started to jog towards the gate, the security gate. Anyway, this woman was shouting at me and waving, and I was going, oh God, what am I going to do? So I got to the door, put the security lights on, and this woman said to me, don't you recognise me? I said, no, I've never seen you before, love. I don't know you from Adam, And she said, Stephen, you took me to the Lake District. So I looked at her and I didn't recognise her. So I said, look, come into the light a minute, come into the centre or the security area. And then she told me her name. And I remembered this little girl because she was a social work referral, because her mum was on the game. And I said to her, oh, I'd forgotten her name, but I did remember her when she told me her name. And I said, oh my goodness, because it was quite depressing. How have you ended up like this? And she said, oh, well, I was taken into care when I was 13. I had a baby when I was like 14 and a half. Baby got taken off me. I ran away, been on the gear. This is what I'm doing. And it was really sad. I thought, because she was a lovely child, But you know what? She turned the atmosphere around when she said, but you know what, Stephen? The only time that I felt like a normal kid when I used to come to Kind. And especially when we went on residential, because it was like being part of a normal family. I'd get up at a proper time. I had 4 meals a day. I clean clothes, my own bed. And it was like having lots of big brothers and sisters looking after me. And I've still got all my badges and all my photographs. And it was still very sad. And, and I wished her all the best. And I said, look, you've got to stop. You've got to stop this. You've got to. And she said, yeah, look, I will. And I've never seen her again. And I hope that she did turn her life round. But for me, although it was very sad, that she was on the game and on the drugs, but somewhere in her childhood, she's got something positive to look back on. And hopefully that bit of positivity is going to affect her later life, and she's going to realise, look, I've got to get back to being like everybody else. I've got to get off the drugs, I've got to get off the street. And I'm hoping that she has, and and that she's settled somewhere, hopefully.
That's an incredible story, and I think, like you say, that she's got that anchor point to
hopefully
a time when maybe some people don't even have that.
No,
it's just a lot of pain and a lot
of her life. She had a chaotic childhood. We worked with the family for about 5 years. She came from about 8 till she was 13. Well, till she was taken into care, basically. And we did Christmas for them. And Mum, I've got to say, Mum was lovely, but on drugs. And she used to go on the street to pay for the drugs. And, she wanted to do her best, but she's just said, this is my life. And obviously it got to the stage where the young girl was taken into care, and never seen the mum again. But, as you say, somewhere in our childhoods, there's got to be something positive to look back on and say, I was good then, I was good at doing that. I can do that. I can achieve. And that's what we try and do with all our children, that they can be the best they can. That's all we want them to be. Not every child's going to be a doctor. Not every child's going to be an engineer, But if you're going to be the best road sweeper, if you're going to be the best shop assistant, that's all you can, that's the best you can be. And that's great. And you encourage your children to be the best they can. And that's what we're all about. It's saying you can be the best you can, and we're going to help you do it.
And I think that's why this charity is so important, and why you've lasted for 43 years, and it's this grassroots movement, because it's playing such a key role in this area.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we try and do our best. The one thing I say to everybody who supports our work is, look, we're a small charity, but I can guarantee to you 92 pence in every pound that you donate is spent on our projects. And yeah, we do employ staff, but they're teachers, they're learning mentors, they're support staff. We have a full-time gardener. So, we're not paying for fundraisers or marketeers. We don't do that. As a chief exec, I'm on the lowest salary out of all of our team. And that's my choice, because I want to be able to say to people, your money is being spent where it should be, on the kids. Like, for instance, the Christmas appeal. Last year we raised £84,000 and we spent £84,000. So it's a proper Christmas appeal. Now, whether we can keep on going, I'm 63. I would hope I'd still be here for our 50th. So, we'll celebrate my 70th, Kai's 50th. I hope, that could be then. Then we're looking about to say we need to pass our work on now, really. Because I love coming to work. I really love every day, because every day's different. But as you're getting older, you get more tired. Your memory goes, as we all know. But touch wood, all right so far.
Absolutely. And, the way you've approached it on, I think you just said that you've been doing it for 43 years. Yeah. And I remember when I first met you, I couldn't believe, I thought you must have started this when you were 10 or something. So probably doing this has driven you and it kept you youthful. You say the fact that you love coming to work. I was doing some research a while ago, and supposedly 70% of people don't like the job, and then actually a third of people hate the job. So to have something which has almost got meaning, and I think something that's run through a lot of the interviews that I've been doing, as that seems to be like a real purpose in what people are doing. It's actually that deeper meaning, that call to sort of be of service to some way, that actually gives you the motivation, and it fuels your passion to keep doing what you're doing.
I think that's right. I think there are lots of us in every community who make a difference in small ways, and that's kind. We make a difference in a small way. We're not mega, but I look forward to coming in, and as you say, it must be horrible to wake up in the morning and think, another 8 hours. We all get there when we're not well, or we've had a bad day or something. And don't get me wrong, I have bad days. I have days when I'm thinking, why am I doing this? But then something will happen. I'll because I'm still, although I'm the chief exec, I still work with the children every day. So you just speak to a child who says, oh, you know what, Stephen, we've just made bread. And it was like in the Mindfulness, they do bread. And we just had it with your honey, and it was like, wow. And you just think, you know what? That child will never have had homemade bread, which they've made, and then tasted honey straight from the hive. And that, really, to me, that says, that's why I do this job. Or, a child when we're on residential who says, I've never been in a kayak or a canoe. I've never done that before. And I didn't think I was going to be any good. But you know what? I am. And that's what I say. In 43 years, some of the saddest things is when a child will say to you, I don't want to do that. And you say, well, have you ever done it before? No, but I don't want to do it. And it's all about they don't want to fail again. Because for a lot of the children, it's constant failure. But with encouragement, with support, they do it and they say, wow, that was amazing. They climb up the rock face, they hit the target with the archery, they canoe in a straight line and they don't fall out. And it's just, all right, it's little things, but you know what? It's building their self-confidence, it's building their self-esteem, it's saying to them, you can succeed. you can achieve, and you can be the best you can, and that's what it's about for us. Small things.
Absolutely, that it's it really is, and they all add up, little things.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's them, it's called Kind, the charity, but them random acts of kindness and them things that happen, they add up in such a significant way over time. So I'm interested to know a little bit about how it started. So obviously it's 43 years ago. Was there a particular event that triggered it for you, that you wanted to get involved and help children?
I come from a large working class family. We lived in 6 rooms, 12 of us, and had the best childhood in the world. We didn't know we were disadvantaged, but we were. But everybody around us was the same. But, I was born in 1955, so my childhood is late 50s, early 60s, and thankfully, I passed the 11 plus, went to a very posh school called Quarry Bank in Woolton. Met a completely different class of boy there who, my friends dads were unemployed, seamen, bin men, went to this school, their dads were all solicitors, doctors. But one of my best friends, Ian Collins, his dad was an NSPCC inspector. And from about the age of 14, we were drawn in, sponsored events, flag days. But every year they used to do a residential into Wales. And, it was, I'm sure we were rubbish, but we were brought along as the volunteers. And for us, it was a great thing because, there was lots of females, lots of women there, our age. But it was a good laugh as well, and I really enjoyed it. And then I stayed as a volunteer with the NSPCC right through school until I left in 73. And 73, Reg Collins, Ian's dad, had basically said, we're not doing the residential anymore. We haven't got the money. We haven't got the staff. And you would never do this now. You'd never get away with it with, DBSs and everything else. But I said, well, can I do it? Reg, I've been doing it for years. You supply the kids. I'll do all the fundraising. I'll get the volunteers from school. And he said, yeah, as long as it doesn't cost us anything, you can do it. And that was our first. We went back to the same place, to Wales. And you know what? I actually loved the organising, and I loved being with the kids in charge. I thought, this is for me, really. And so from 73, the idea was that we would set up our own charity. And another school friend of mine, Greg Sorrell, had come up with Kinder. And we thought, it's a bit German sounded, they might. So we shortened it to KIND, Kids in Need and Distress. And you know what? We're still kind, but we're no longer kids in need and distress, because obviously times have changed. So we're now kind, investing in the future, our children, because we don't want to label our kids. But when we were first setting up, that name did what it said on the can. That's who we work with. And so from 73 till we got registered in 75, I was working. We did the summer and we did weekends, and I was slowly fundraising. And then we became registered, and I made the decision then, really, that this is what I wanted to do. So, apart from 3 years at uni, which gave me 3 years working at KIND almost full time, that's been my whole career, really. I've enjoyed it. I think I've built something which has done a job and has made a difference. And I always say, when I go and do my talks, even if it's one child a year, I'd be happy with that, because we've made a difference in someone's life. And that's all you can do. That's all you can hope to do, make a difference in someone's life. And so, really, from my experiences in secondary school, working as a volunteer with the NSPCC, that really brought me to a position where I thought, this is what I want to do. I was very lucky, I'm a very good salesman, I'm a very good business person, and I've used those skills to make sure that, KIND is well run financially, because you've got to be. So we've never had any debt. We have a small reserve, which is great, but we don't overspend, because I bank every check and every donation, and I write every check. I sign off the check, so I know exactly what we've got in the bank. So I know what we can spend and where we need to save. So I've used it. It's very we're very old-fashioned. We have an accounts book, which is income at the front, expenditure at the back. People laugh and say, "Oh, it should be on the computer." it's not for me, I'm afraid. I like to write everything in, so I know. I do a monthly reconciliation, I do a weekly reconciliation, so I know where we are. So we are very old-fashioned. I have to say this, Rob. We are very old-fashioned. We're a dinosaur amongst charities. You know, new charities would laugh at the way we work, but you know what? We're still here, and we're still doing what we did in 1975.
It works.
Yeah, it works for us. Yeah.
It works, and you know, like you say, 43 years.
Yeah.
Quite a journey you've gone on, and it's amazing. I think for people who listen to this as well, and something that certainly resonates with me is that a lot of people now kind of like might get passionate about something and do something, but it might just be a few years time. But for you to do something for 43 years, that shows so much commitment that I think it's kind of, I'd love to see that still happening now, but I don't know whether it's quite an achievement.
Yeah, the problem I find now is that there's nobody in post who was with me when I started. So, you know, other organisations, they've either moved on or retired. And our sector now is very professional. You know, it's a career now. Now, I never saw it as a career. I saw it as a vocation originally. But it's a career now. People stay in post for 5 years, then move up or move across or move to another organisation. And so it's constantly trying to, you know, make new connections. I say to everybody, you know, a founder chief exec is the biggest advantage for any organisation and the biggest disadvantage, because to change you have to change me, and it's 63. That's getting harder. You know, I'm surrounded by a young team. You know, the rest of our team are fairly young, and it's great because they're very much into social media. They're very much into the website. And me, I'm a technophobe. I use my phone to speak to people. You know, that's it. It's just a good job I've got a 15-year-old who can actually manipulate everything for me. But the biggest advantage, I give us continuity. You know, I can remember what we did in 1975. The big problem we'll face, and this is a problem, you know, that businesses face, is there a succession plan? What will happen to Kind? You know, when I do get to 70 or 75, what happens? And you know what? It might be that some organisations have a natural life and that they finish. And, you know, whatever resources are left, you pass on to another emerging charity which you feel has got your philosophy and your remit as well. Because very often, you know, organisations and charities, they exist not because of what they're doing, but because there's been a whole structure built around that charity of people's jobs and, you know, investments, and you just think you were set up to do something that's changed, but shouldn't you now say, well, you know, we've done our job? And so I think it might be that, you know, Kind will come to a natural end and we'll pass on. It mightn't be, you know, there might be someone out there who says, you know what, I'm going to come and work for you for free, because we couldn't pay a deputy. That's the problem. You know, it's not feasible for us to do that. But that's something that we've got to think about over the coming years, really, and which we are thinking about seriously.
I think it's good to have that approach to think, well, you know, things do have a lifespan, and that's okay. It's not necessarily you feel like you've got to hold on to it. It has to develop into something else.
No.
Even if it ended today, you've done so much incredible work in 43 years.
It's not going to end today, Rob. It's not going to end today.
No, definitely not today. But you know what I mean, in terms of like what you've done already, you know, and another 7 years or another however long, then...
Yeah, because I think, you know, there will be other organisations who will be setting up, and we could be looking at them and saying, you know what, we could give you a start. We could help you as well, because we've got a resource here which, you know, we can pass on. But we'll see. I mean, you know, it's one of those things. I keep on saying, 7 years I'll be knackered, you know, I'm going to go. But it must be end up, I could be like the oldest charity chief exec in the world.
At 90.
At 90, yeah. Bit doddery like, but, you know, we'll have to have a lift. We've got a lift. We'll have to have a stanner as well, a stanner stair lifting for me to sit on.
Someone else might have to be writing the check.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know, because obviously you've been here for so long and you've seen like so many different children come through. And how would you say the challenges have changed during that time, or is there any of them that are just basically at the core of the same challenges that kids are having.
Poverty is a big challenge. Sadly, in 2018, with a first world economy, we haven't solved childhood poverty. We haven't developed a system where every child has almost the same chance as every other child. And I think for me, it's very difficult. I started in 75, and I think, we're still having cases where we supply a school uniform, we supply a pair of shoes, we supply a bed because the child's sleeping on the floor or there's two of them in the same bed. And I'm thinking, 43 years on, and we're still doing, so we as a community, we as a society have to come to terms with children are our future. It's a great song, but it's true. Children are the future. We've got to ensure that every single child gets the best opportunity to be the best they can to improve our society and to give back to our society. And I think if a child doesn't even have a bed, if a child can't go to school because they've not got shoes or they've not got the right school uniform, there's a problem. So we're still dealing with that. And it's not something that we can do all the time because, that's not what we're funded to do. But when we do have money, I'll give you an example now with, the new universal credit. We've had a referral from social work, a single dad with a 12-year-old. He's gone on to universal credit, no cash. They don't know when he's going to get any money. He's run out of food bank voucher. His house is not great. He's using a kettle which is taped up. So we had some money from some bits and pieces that we'd sold. So we've managed to sort out a bed for his son. We've sorted a microwave, kettle, toaster, and we filled his cupboards. I can't do that every week, but at least he's got a start. At least he knows someone else is concerned about him. And at least his son knows that as well. He's got a 12-year-old, and we'll help out at Christmas. We'll make sure that child has some lovely gifts to open on Christmas morning, and that again their cupboards are full. But I'm not solving their problems, and I think that's for a higher plane than me. But we as a community, we as a society, we have to address childhood poverty.
What do you think can happen from a broader spectrum, in terms of maybe could the councils be doing more, could governments be doing more, or do you think
it's got to be central? Because local government funding has been absolutely cut to the bone. They can only do so much with what they've got, really. And this is the problem now, isn't it? It's like the third sector is stepping in. The voluntary sector is stepping in to help. But we have to have a position where if people need support, that the level of support they get enables them to live properly, that they can buy their children clothes, they can buy enough food. We've got this big thing about, and we've got this big thing about, being healthier as adults. But really, if your income only allows you to eat processed food and the cheapest processed food, you're not going to, and you're a child, you're not going to be a healthy adult. It's going to take a lot more than that, to get you to be healthy. So, we have to ensure that our benefits are not overly generous. I think, the Tories are right in that respect. It should pay to work. So if you're doing 16 hours, you should feel better off than if you're signing on. But if you are signing on, that level of money you get should be enough to look after you, to make sure you're well fed, you can heat your house, and you can clothe your kids. Because otherwise, we are going back to Victorian times.
What are your thoughts on I think it's been modelled a few times in Scandinavia, and they're attempting it in Scotland, of the basic living income that would potentially be picked across the board for everyone?
Yeah, I think, we're a first world country. We have a first world economy. If we have to pay a bit more tax, if the better off have to pay a bit more tax, then so be it, because we can't see fellow members of our community in positions where they can't even clothe their children properly. You know, I don't want to go back to Victorian days where, you know, we've got these great benefactors who dole out their cash. You know, it should be as of right. As a British citizen, it's a right that you're able to feed yourself and your children. You're able to clothe them and to heat your home. Okay? That's my wish list. And if I've got to pay extra tax for that, I'm happy to. You know, because as long as we know that our taxes are being used for that, our taxes are being used to keep on providing healthcare at the point of need without any cost.
Yeah.
And that might be, you know, that might be people saying, oh yeah, you know, you're just a dreamer. But you know what? It's not. We're a small country. We're going to be leaving Europe. You know what I mean? We're going to become even more isolated. So if leaving Europe means we can spend more of our money in this country helping, and then we can spend more money abroad, so be it.
Yeah, definitely. The huge challenges that we face, there's no doubt. And
Terrible challenges.
And I think maybe some people that are listening to this and will kind of be some of the stories that you tell, like how you hear the hardship and the poverty. A lot of people listening to this won't necessarily relate with that because it's not their day to day.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important that we become more conscious of these things and we understand them. And the gap between the rich and the poor, equality is just growing.
It's just growing, yeah. And I think, for me, from a children's point of view, you know, lots of our kids are not being inspired, you know, because we're working with children where nobody in the family has ever worked. Nobody's gone on to further education. Now, you know, there's loads of cases where they have and they are, and that's great. But I think for those children where there's no aspiration, there's no incentive to do better, because I'll sign on. That's what my dad does. That's what my brothers do. That's what my uncle does. We've got to break that cycle, and that's the hardest thing to do. And I think, you know, in some ways, the Tories did have some decent ideas about that. You know, I think work must pay, further education must pay, but we can't justify that by making those people who can't work or can't go on to further education, penalising them. That's not right. That's not civilised.
So you don't get any support in terms of, you're all completely sort of relied
voluntary
on donations and stuff.
And we've been, you know, Rob, we've been very, very fortunate. We've got no debt. We own our centre. You know, we were left enough money in a legacy to buy our centre by a lovely old lady, Megan Jones from Oswestry, and we're very fortunate. And we realise that, and that's why we do the best we can to make sure that those legacies, those donations are used properly and get to those children and families most in need.
Would you mind sharing Megan's story with us?
Megan's story is lovely. Megan rang me, it's 6 years ago now. It was one half term. It was one of our prep weeks, and she rang me and she said, I'm Megan Jones, in a lovely Welsh accent, but which I won't even attempt to do. And she said, my sister has just passed away. So I said, I'm very sorry to hear that, Megan. And she said, yeah, and she's left me a cottage and all of her belongings. And because my sister worked in Liverpool in Kensington during the Second World War as a teacher, I would like to leave something in my will to a children's charity. And she said, I've tried some of the bigger Liverpool charities, who I won't name, but they don't seem very interested. So I said, well, look, Megan, I'll come down and get you in Oswestry and we'll bring you up to our centre and you can have a look around. And so the next day we went down for Megan, because it was a prep week, we had no kids in. So we went down for Megan, we brought her and a carer up. She had a look around. And I've got to say, we treated her like the Queen Mother. You know, sandwiches from Marks and Spencer's, a china teacup for her. But she was lovely and she was interested, and she said, Stephen, this is great, you know, this is the sort of thing that I want to support, but I'd like to come back and see it when the kids were there. So I said, yeah, next week, kids are in, I'll come back for you Tuesday. Again, same thing, Marks and Spencer's butties, looked after her really well. And then we'd send, after that, we'd sent a card and everything, and then we didn't really hear from her. And I used to say to the staff, God, you know what, I bet she rings every bloody charity in the Northwest saying, I'm thinking about leaving you some money, can you come and show me around? And she has some amazing days out. But anyway, a couple of years ago, we had a phone call again during half term, and it was a very posh guy who asked me to ring him back from Oswestry, which I did. And it turns out that this guy was Megan's solicitor, and that sadly she'd passed away that week, 96. She'd never gone into a home. She'd gone into hospital with a broken hip, and they were about to put it into a home, but she passed away, which I think was great for her. That's what she would have wanted. She was so independent. So he said, well, obviously Megan loved coming to Kind, and you know she was going to leave you a legacy. I said, yeah. And then usually I would say, how much? But I thought, no, I can't. So we spoke for about 20 minutes. And then he said, would you like to know how much she's left you? I said, well, yeah, I would actually. So he said, well, she's left you 100,000. 100. So I said, 100. He said, 100,000. And there's a little bit more once we finalised the estate. So we went to Megan's funeral. And this was the saddest thing, really. She'd left 50 bequests to local charities in Oswestry. A couple of £1,000. But there was only 6 of us at the funeral. And I thought, that is very sad for such a wonderful, generous lady. But anyway, the £100,000 came in very quickly. And it was just at the time we were renegotiating our lease for the seed centre. And so I rang the council and I said, look, we've had this legacy. It's 100,000. What about us buying the freehold? And they came back and said, oh, it's not enough. So I said, okay, but that's all we've got really. But in the meantime, I had another phone call from the solicitor who said, we finalised Megan's estate and I've just backed over your final payments, and then the estate is now finalised. So I said, oh, that's great. So I was expecting 3,000 or 4,000, from the sale of furniture and stuff. Checked the bank account, £50,000.
Wow.
150,000 straight onto the council. We've got an extra 50. Will that make a difference? They came back within a couple of days and said, we'll sell it to you. So Megan's kindness and generosity secured our future because we own the centre. And I always look up and say, sorry, Megan, for ever doubting you. I knew you'd come through for us.
It's such a lovely story.
Yeah.
Absolutely lovely story. And I bet you're glad you rolled out the Marks and Spencer.
Well, I am, because, she was a lovely, ordinary for her to have that much money, I couldn't believe it, really. But she was a lovely woman. She had a real interest in children, and, she had a history. Her brother was a pharmacist. She had a very interesting history. But for us to leave all that money to a Liverpool charity, when she was Welsh but based in Oswestry, I just thought, you know what? I'm a great believer in kismet, in fate, and it was fate that we met. That someone else didn't pick up on her request and go and get her. And we've got a lovely painting of her downstairs in our gym, on our Forever Friends wall. And every time I go past, I always smile at her because, hopefully she's looking down on us and saying, Stephen, I'm glad I chose Kind. You're doing wonderful things with the money I left you. Keep it going.
Well, hopefully on some plane of existence, she's listening along to this now.
Yeah, she is. And if she is, thank you, Megan.
No, it's absolutely beautiful. And the thing you talk about there about fate, I think there's probably been numerous times where things have just come at the absolute perfect timing for
Believe
you.
In fate. Yeah.
And yeah, me too. And I think everything can happen for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, we've been shortlisted for awards, and we've been for money awards, and we've not got them. And you think, oh, blimey, what we could have done with that. And the next day, someone rings up and says, oh, I read about you because you were shortlisted. I'm going to send you a check. So yeah, swings and roundabouts, and if it's meant for us, it will happen, and if it's not, it won't.
Well, I think there's definitely a lot of positive force behind this if it's been going for so long. And it seems like as well that over the years you've been recognised as well, and I understand that you were awarded the highest honour in Liverpool back in 2012 of the Freedom of the City.
Yeah, that was a wonderful one, and I'm just so sad that my mum and dad aren't alive, really, to see that, because it was special for me because, obviously my dad was from China, And, he was an immigrant. He came to Liverpool and married my mum, who was a Scouser, and had 10 children. But that was the first time that Liverpool has ever recognised anybody from, an ethnic minority, a non-white ethnic minority. So I was so pleased to be the first person, and it was such an honour, not only for me, but for all the supporters that we have, all the staff that have worked with Kind, all the volunteers, and I was so proud because I love Liverpool. Liverpool is my home, and it's done so much for me as a person, and it's nice to be recognised by the city, and Kind also has been recognised. Kind has also got the freedom of the city as well, which is also a tremendous honour.
And how did that sort of come about? Is it?
I think you get proposed, and it has to be a unanimous decision of the council, which thankfully it was. But it was just an amazing event, and I'd invited so many of my school friends and people who'd supported Kind over the years. So there was an awful lot of people there, and it was wonderful to see them. It was a nice way to bring everybody together to celebrate this, really. And for them to realise that they played a part in it, which they had,
You were almost 40 years in at that point.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing as well, when we can tend to start, so when you started properly in 1975, no grand plans, no ideas for this centre, no to be given the freedom of the city. No. And it just...
I've got to be honest, I didn't think I'd keep on doing it. I enjoyed it, but I thought, you know what, I must do this, and then I'll go and get a job. But I just enjoyed it so much, and working with the kids. I think that's the beauty of it. I think for a lot of people who move up the scale, the further they move up, the further away they get from the people they're working with. Now, every day that we have children in, I'm here, so I'm working directly with them, and I think that's the difference. So I'm still quite grounded in that respect. I know what our money's doing. It's great because I can see it from a practical point of view. I still go and deliver stuff, furniture, food, clothing. I still deliver that to families. It's not someone else who does that. It's us, because we're a small team. But yeah, I never thought we would be where we are now, and that's great. And I think for me especially, it feels that my life has meant something, really. So if I stopped it today, as you say, I would feel, yeah, you know what? I did achieve something, all right. I'm not the richest person in the world, but I can honestly say that there are people within our community who are different, who are here because of the work that Kind's done with them.
It's had a real meaning to your life and real purpose. So it's like, what do you rather have now? £10 million in the bank, and you would have just built that up and maybe not contributed as much, but all you've done instead, that's worth, for me, billions in a way. In terms of...
It'd still be nice to have £10 million in the bank after, I'll be honest. I would never have to fundraise again, but no, hey ho. It's I would agree with you. Yeah.
And then just back to the freedom of the city, so you're in good company there, and I believe Nelson Mandela and the likes of the Beatles have received it. So
yeah, I mean, it's an amazing achievement to see your name in the town hall, and after that, thankfully, there was another local guy, Wally Brown, who's from the Afro-Caribbean community. That's his roots, mine's the Chinese, and he was awarded it as well. So it is. We've opened the floodgate a little bit, hopefully.
So I'm interested. So what does the Freedom of the City give you? Do you get some sort of master key line man so you can go into little hidden places all over the city?
You're allowed to unsheathe your sword in Castle Street, and also walk down you're allowed to walk your sheep down Castle Street as well. But it's a lovely hand-painted, woven certificate in a lovely case, and it was an amazing night. My family were all there, and my kids, and it was just, and the grandkids. It was just nice that everybody could be there. It was just a nice night.
So suppose you've not got a sword or any sheep to...
Not got a sword or a sheep, no, sadly.
And did you receive an MBE as well?
I got an MBE, many years ago, and again, it's lovely to be recognised. But I think for me, the freedom was the most important because it's local and it's being recognised by where you live, you know, and I think that's great. And it was wonderful because I live in town and I walk everywhere. So, you know, to walk through town, and it was really nice. You know, I had people coming up to me saying, well done, Steve, you deserve that. Or, you know, mate, I've seen you in the Echo, well done. You know, it's nice when someone normal gets it. And that's what I thought, you know, I am normal. I shop in town, you know, I still see, you know, lots of the kids who are now adults that we've worked with, lots of the families. So it's not like I've moved out anywhere. I'm still where I've always lived in Liverpool 1 all my life, and I'm still here.
And I think, like you say there, like local people will be congratulate you and recognise it.
It was lovely.
And that is actually, I think, really inspiring for people going up to see, you know, actually, it's amazing that that's happened to Stephen, and who knows, it might, you know, they might go down a different path in their life, think, well, I want to be of service in some way, I want to do some good.
Yeah, hopefully. Help. I mean, that's what it's about, isn't it? If we can, it's about inspiring and aspiration, you know, that's what we're about.
So I'm interested to know about, we touched on it, you appear very youthful for your age, and
it's my wife, she gets all the credit. Trisha, you get all the credit.
You get all the credit. So
cooking.
Do you have a particular, you know, like, you know, what's your daily routine look like then? Does it change much during the past 43 years?
No, it has, because I used to be a runner until I got knocked over. So I was out quite early doors running, because I used to get my running in the morning or after work, and it's always better in the morning. You feel up for it. So I'm an early riser for most of the week. You know, into work for usually 7:30. You know, depending on what's to do. So no, my routine is different every day, because I think that's the beauty of the job. It's different every day. You know, we're now well into the Christmas appeal. So, you know, the next 6 weeks are going to be absolutely frantic, really. We're still looking for our warehouse. That's the big thing for us. We need to find a warehouse in which all our hampers can be packed. We're just starting to work with different companies and individuals and organisations about toys and donations, and, you know, who's going to be helping us to pack the hampers. So this is a very busy, stressful time. I'm got to admit, I do get stressed. And I'm trying to de-stress, really. I'm trying to take a bit of mindfulness on board now. Because as my wife says, look, you can only do what you can do. And sometimes I'm lying awake at night thinking, I should be doing more, really. But you can't. You know, you can only do what you can do. I mean, that's a great expression. And I think that's what I've got to sort of start to realise, you know, as especially as you do get older. You can only do what you can do. And that's what we can do. But I have to say, the Christmas appeal, we've never had to say no. Now, whether that's the same this year, because I do feel with the introduction of universal credit, we're going to get a lot more referrals this Christmas from families who have just signed, you know, for the new benefit, but have not been paid or not sure when they're going to get paid. So they're going to be struggling at Christmas.
So do you say last year it was about 9,000 families?
9,000, yeah.
9,000 people or families?
No, people.
People in total.
Yeah. I mean, it's working with a wide range of organisations across our community of Merseyside. So we work with all the 5 boroughs. And as I say, the remit is trying to get out to the ones most in need, really, to make a difference. As I say, to give them a Christmas to remember and not to forget.
So they'll all get like a Christmas hamper.
They get, and I've got to say to you, Rob, you know, these hampers are not food bank parcels. These are the sort of hamper that if I get it, I would say, wow, that's good. You know, because what we try and do at Christmas, and we do have some discussion about this, but what I've always done, I've always put branded goods, no value goods, because I feel our families struggle all year round, very often buying what's the best offer, really, or the cheapest. So at Christmas, we give them something which is special. And there's over 70 items in there, so, you know, it's enough for the week. And the toys are beautiful. I have to say, we get so well supported with toys. So, you know, we know that thousands of kids are waking up on Christmas morning happy, really, and parents are happy as well, because they know they've given their kids an amazing Christmas. We're not solving these problems, I've got to be honest with you. You know, I say that to everybody, but we're giving them the sort of Christmas that we want for our own children and for ourselves.
It's an amazing gift.
Yeah,
it's an
it is an
amazing
amazing gift. And that's only achievable thanks to our friends and supporters, because without them, we could do very little. With them, we can continue making a real difference in thousands of lives at this special time of the year.
So is it cost about £75? Is it right?
In the region, yeah. We're just
hamper?
that's another busy thing now. We're just in the process of sourcing and negotiating best price on our food.
I think for people who would be like listen to that and think that if they could contribute, it might not be a lot of money for some people as well, and for considering what they may spend on say Christmas presents and other stuff like that, to potentially divert some of that cash and to know that you will be giving a family that is really in need of a good Christmas for £75. As I say, it's something that I did last year, and I got a letter from you, and I got this letter and reprinted it out and gave it to all the kids and said, look,
that's the difference.
You've made a difference here.
And I think that's the beauty, isn't it? Thankfully, you and I have families who are all right. If our families didn't get anything at Christmas, they'd still be all right, because they've got what they need, really. But it's always nice to get a present, isn't it? So something small is lovely. But for a lot of our families, there's nothing. And that's the difference, So if we can come in, if we can bring a little bit of light into their dark lives. And I think at this time of the year, winter is dark. But if we can bring a little bit of light into that, with a lovely... We can fill their cupboards for Christmas and perhaps New Year. They know the kid's going to open up some lovely gifts. To me, there's no better feeling. I sort of go to bed Christmas Eve thinking, well, you know what? We've done what we've done. And tomorrow, thanks to our friends and our supporters and our staff and our volunteers, lots of kids are going to wake up with smiles and not tears.
Yeah, that must really warm the heart for you.
Yeah, no, it does. We sleep well that night. Yeah.
And I bet as well, even when you're having your own Christmas, you can know that there's 7,000 other people that you've contributed to
their Christmas
and supported to it.
Yeah, no, it is, and and I think again, I can't stress that every single pound that's donated at Christmas is a pound that we spend at Christmas. Now, what we've even done is over the last 3 years is because we've had some food left over and we've had some money in between Christmas and New Year, we've actually done New Year hampers. So we've gone back to our referrers and said, look, who could do with a great start to the new year? So we've done a couple of 100 hampers with what's left, so that all the money's spent. We can say hand on heart, 84 grand raised, 84 grand spent. We've not taken anything for next year. It's all about making a difference at Christmas and New Year.
It's really admirable. You're a hero. And
no, I wouldn't say that. I think
but you and your organisation and all your volunteers
I think that
are doing a heroic act.
We are, yeah. I think without them, one person can't change the world. I always say this, but you can change the world for one person. And if we can all do that, if we all individually change the world for one person, what an amazing community we'd live in, And I think thanks to our friends, thanks to our supporters, thanks to our staff and volunteers, we're able to make a difference. And I think without them, we couldn't. But with that continuing support, with that continuing goodwill, it makes a major, major difference in many lives this year.
So how many people are involved for you and volunteering and helping in this Christmas appeal? Is there
100 plus?
Yeah.
100 plus, because the physical day of packing, we have potentially 100 plus volunteers, because it's very hard work. It's a lot of cans and it's heavy work, and then there's the distribution. Last year over 1,800 hampers went out, and then they go out up till about the 21st, 22nd, and then it's toys right through till Christmas Eve. So we finish here 6 or 7 Christmas Eve. That's the last of the toys gone out. But again, the phone comes directly to my house during that break, because there's always some surplus, there's always some spare. So if we get a phone call from the police, from the fire brigade, from someone who's discovered someone who hasn't got anything, then we can always say, look, we've got a little bit, we've got some presents left, we can always do something. And we've done that on Christmas Day. we had a lovely. Well, it was a lovely story. We had a police sergeant who rang us. He'd been on nights Christmas Eve. There was a guy who'd come in absolutely distraught because his car, he'd been working for 2 months, and his car had been broken into and all his presents had gone. And he said, so the police sergeant from Waterloo was so upset, that he was ringing round different groups and left a voicemail on our answer on my home number, because it went to my home number. And I rang him back because he wasn't in till I think 3 o'clock. And I said, look, we're here, we can sort something out. Do you want to do it? And he said, yeah. So the guy who had the stuff stolen had a late Christmas, but his kids had a Christmas. We managed to sort out some toys, managed to sort out some food, and so they still had a Christmas. And I just thought, that police sergeant had been so concerned that he thought, it's not just, it's another victim of crime. He was so concerned that he made a difference, and we helped him.
Save Christmas.
Yeah. From the Grinch.
From the Grinch. This is what I love about it, just hearing these stories, because I think that's when people connect with it and they can sort of empathise and they can tap into that and relate to it. And so besides, if people, like, I would love for people to listen to this and to make a donation, can they also volunteer as well for Christmas?
Yeah. I say to all our volunteers, and I'm going to be really honest about this, the Christmas appeal is completely self-funded. If I got 1,000 volunteers who just wanted a pack and 10 people who were helping me to fundraise, there wouldn't be a lot to pack. We'll be packing fresh air. So I say to everybody, the best feeling in the world, if you've done some fundraising and say you've raised 50 quid or £100, the best feeling for you is when you walk into that warehouse and you look at the food and the empty boxes, and at the end of that day you look at the full boxes and you think, you know what, I've been a part of this. I've not just packed, I've raised the money to buy that food. And that's I have people who take time off out of their work, they take a holiday to come and do that because they say it's the real meaning of Christmas. I've raised a bit of money in work amongst my mates, we've given it to you, and I've come along and I've packed that hamper, and I know that my money is being well used. It's not just gone into a pot, it's actually here, and it's going out to a family in 2 days where they're going to open that hamper box and say, wow.
That is a wow, and I think that's amazing, because sometimes you will maybe just make an online donation to something and you're like, who gets it? Where does it go? And like you say, 92% of every donation, well, throughout the year, but in this instance, 100% goes. Yeah. And then if you can come along and do it, then
you can see it.
Wow.
And we say that to people. We say, look, if you've raised some money, come along and pack, and you can see where your money's going. But it's hard work. Don't get me. It is like a military operation, Rob. I've got to say that I am like Sergeant Major, because it's so precious to me. I say to all our volunteers, I'm really thankful you're here. But this is not about having a laugh, because if you put in a dented can, if you put in a broken box, some family's going to open that and think, they've given us like seconds, they don't really value us, as we're just seconds. So I say I want every single box to be opened, and they say, I want the expression to be, wow, that is wonderful, I couldn't afford that, my kids are going to have an amazing Christmas meal, or the amazing Christmas, because I've got all that in my cupboards. And I think that's so important, because these hampers contain, Christmas crackers, mince pies, cakes, chocolate, crisps, as well as all the basics, the soup, the beans, the spaghetti, the tuna, the corned beef. There's over 70 items in there, well over. And I want them to see that we care about them, that we value them. We're not putting in dented cans, we're not putting in white label. This is a hamper that if I got, I would say, thank you. I think that's what we try and get over to everybody who's packing, that we want these to be pristine.
Well, we've already made the decision, and me and Ruth, with our family, we've decided our Secret Santa this year, we're actually going to be giving the money to Kind.
Well, that's great, thank you so much.
And I think now, hearing that, we would love to come along and see that
honestly,
money.
I think, people come along and there is a wow factor. There really is. We've got to find a warehouse. That's our problem now. We're because we need 25 25,000 square feet, 25,000 square feet. So we're really pushing now. So if anybody out there who is listening to the podcast, who's got contacts with warehousing, please do get in touch, because we really need to have sourced a warehouse very soon, really, for us to process it, to get on with it.
And what tend to be the dates that it would happen where people would be
We would be
all the
packing because Christmas is a Tuesday this year. We can't pack the last weekend. It's too close. So we'll either be packing the weekend before that, which I think is the 16th or 17th, or the Monday or the Tuesday. It depends really on the warehouse we get and who owns it. What they say to us, whether they say you can have it for 2 weeks, do what you want, or they say you can only get in on certain days. That will depend on whoever gives us the warehouse.
And in the past, the warehouse has been donated,
yeah. Because I say to everybody, we're speaking to a number of companies who own warehouses. We're more than happy to pay, but I have to tell them that any money that we have to pay for the warehouse will come out of what we've raised for the food. So potentially, if they say to me it's £1,000, that's £1,000 worth of food that I can't distribute.
Yeah.
And in the main, they usually say you can have it.
Well, that's good, and it's their gift as well.
It is their gift, and it's their corporate responsibility as well, which is great. And we'll go the extra mile to get them as much positive publicity as we can. But we've got Joe Anderson, who's our elected mayor, and Steve Rotherham, who's our Metro mayor. They're both on the case as well. So hopefully, sometime quite shortly, we will know we've got our warehouse.
And I think, like you talked about before, about this idea of fate. And I'm sure every year it's come.
It is tight, yeah. Every year
it's tight, but it happens.
It happens. No, we've never dropped. This is our 43rd year. We've never dropped in 42.
Wow. So I'm interested to know. Do you know any sort of the numbers that in that time potentially, like, it must be tens of thousands of kids and families?
You know what, Rob?
Maybe even hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you know what? We never do, because we're so small. And this is perhaps something we've got to look at. But we never sort of write down the numbers. We've not got someone who's saying this is the outcomes, because we're too busy. That's the problem. You absolutely run off your feet, picking up stuff, delivering stuff, getting stuff ready. And so we get all the referrals coming in through the post. They have to be physically entered to make sure there's no duplication, because that's what we're very keen on. That the families we're supporting, they're not getting 2 or 3. And there's some families not getting anything. So we've never really sat down and said, you know what, we did X amount of kids, X amount of adults, X amount of single people. It's not something we do, and we perhaps should look at that. How, I don't know, but if there's a way, someone out there knows, tell us.
Yeah. Well, even if you haven't got it jotted down somewhere, at least it is.
Well, we know from the
big
referrals.
Number.
Yeah, it is big numbers, to be fair. It's the largest. But you see, the other thing is, and I'm not saying this in a critical way, but we never get the full credit for the Christmas appeal, because we don't deliver the hampers. So if you're Mrs. Smith and your social worker, John, delivers your hamper, it's John, isn't it? It's, we've got this great hamper in the toys from John. It's not WhyKInd, and that's fine. I'm not really that bothered about that, but because as long as they're getting the stuff and it's making a difference at Christmas. But sometimes I do feel, you know what, it would be nice for people to know that their 50 quid made that much difference, or their £100 or their £20 or even their £10. It all builds up. I'm amazed how it does build up, because we don't get mega money. In fact, you know what? We've just had our largest donation at Christmas. We were chosen by Merseyside Police Federation to be the charity for their annual dinner, which happened last week, and we've just received for Christmas a cheque for £12,000, which is our largest Christmas cheque. So, I'm really confident that the appeal is well on the way to reaching its target for the 43rd year and helping so many people.
That is amazing to hear.
Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely amazing. So, looking to the future, beyond Christmas,
yeah,
what plans are you thinking for KIND? Obviously, 43 years in, you're 63.
We've got some exciting plans for the future. We've been offered an amazing building in the heart of Liverpool 8, which is on Princess Road, on the way to the park. It's an old Welsh Presbyterian church, which has been derelict now for 21 years. It was built over 157 years ago by the Welsh immigrants into Liverpool to be their church, their community centre. And we've been offered it for £1 in partnership with Merseyside Buildings Preservation Trust, but there is £6 million worth of refurb on the building to turn it into an amazing centre. We've applied for National Heritage money, and we'll know in December if we've gone through to first stage. I would love to save this building. It's a building I've passed all my life. I've run past it, I've walked past it, I've pushed prams past it, I've walked the dog past it. And you know what, Rob? I went in this time last year for the first time in many, many years, and it's got no roof, it's got no windows, it's got no floor. But yet it's got an atmosphere. It's got an atmosphere which makes you feel at home. And I thought, you know what, I want to be here. I want to save this building for the next 100 years. I want it to be used again as a part of the wider Liverpool Merseyside community. But more importantly as well, I want to celebrate the fact that this was built by immigrants into our city. And I want people to know the benefits that immigration has given to our city, and the impact that the Chinese, the Afro-Caribbeans, the Somalis, the Jews, the Irish, the difference they've made to our community. The Welsh, God, I forgot the Welsh. The Welsh, the difference they've made to the impact they've had on the Liverpool community. You know, because we're all immigrants, aren't we, really? And if we can welcome the next wave of immigration, whether that be from, you know, Iraq, whether that be from, you know, East Europeans, and say, come in, make a difference, become part of the city. But a big part of that, I do feel, has to be assimilation. You know, I'm proud to be part Chinese, but I'm a Scouser. And that's what, it's weird, we were one of the first groups to deal during the Kosovo crisis with Kosovan children who came to our out of school clubs. And it was weird because they, you know, within a year, the same kids had gone from pronounced, you know, East European accents to being Scousers. If you close your eyes, you would think they're Scousers. And yet their parents, when they picked them up, very little English. So it's an incentive, isn't it, to assimilate, and for you, for the next generation, to become Scousers, because that's what we are. You know, if you're going to live in Liverpool, you're a Scouser. And it doesn't matter whether you're born here or whether you come in, as long as you love the city, you're a Scouser. And I think that's so important for me, that we welcome immigration. Because if we look at our history, the history of this country, it's built on immigration. It's built on people who came here, who loved this country, who loved the city that they came into, and who wanted to give something back and make a difference.
Talking about making a difference, this podcast is all about sharing good stories of what good people are doing, like yourself, and you got all that experience. What would you say to someone who was thinking of actually going out there and doing their own little bit of good? Is there any thoughts that you could offer them?
I think the environment in which we live now is a lot different from when I started. And in some ways, rightly so, safeguarding is paramount. So I think people have to, for me, you start small and you grow if it works. And if it doesn't work, you've lost nothing. But, you know, to go back to what we said before, if you can make a difference to one person, you're a hero. You are a hero, you know. And I think if you can do that and you want to continue doing it, there's enough problems and difficulties out there that need addressing. And if you've got a particular remit that you want to work with, that is great. And I think for me, do it, because I did it. You know, I've been offered jobs by other charities and by, you know, the statutory, but I didn't want to do that. You know, I wanted to be my own boss and I wanted to do things my way. And I think that's the beauty of it for me. But I think for younger people, they have to have that commitment, because it is a commitment. It's long hours. It's not a lot of cash, really. And again, I would say, if you can help one person, that's a plus.
That sums up everything that we've spoken about today.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
In a really succinct way, and I'd love to see people get a great response from this, and if they can be inspired to do something good. So kind of just to, it's been really good speaking to you today and getting this message out there. What's the best way that people can connect with Kind?
For me personally, give me a ring. I'm, as I say, I'm a bit of a technophobe, but we have got a Facebook, we've got a website, office phone numbers, where so you can get all the details. Just give us a ring and say, look, this is what I want to do, or this is how I want to help, or what do you need me to do. I mean, again, for the first time in a number of years, we've got a pop-up Christmas shop in Liverpool town centre, which is doing really, really well. But we need volunteers for that as well, because it's such a big space. It's the old George Henry Lees. I've grown up with this building. George Henry Lees was the prime retailer in our city centre, and I never in a million years would have imagined I'd end up with a charity shop in there. But it's going to be a hotel apparently, so we're there until it becomes a hotel. They get the building consents and warrants. But yeah, get in touch. If you can give a couple of hours, that's great. If you can give a day, even better. If you can fundraise in your office, let us know. If you want to help with the packing, the distribution, get in touch. Simple as that.
Well, there we have it. Plenty of tips
and
ways to get and connect. Well, thank you, Stephen.
It's been a pleasure.
I really appreciate you offering your time today.
Thanks for giving the opportunity for me to get out on a podcast, whatever a podcast is. I have no real knowledge of that. No, but thanks, Rob. It's been great. I hope people have got an insight into what KIND's about and why we're still here and what our passion is. And if they feel that's something that they would like to get involved with, then please do get in touch.
Perfect. Thank you,
Great.
Stephen.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Cheers, Rob.
Cheers. So there we have it. There's my interview with Stephen. What a guy, eh? Isn't he just it's so inspiring listening to his story and his journey and all the things he's gone on, and I think to know there's people like that out there doing these things and how it started for him, it starts from small actions and just repeating them and seeing how it goes. So anyway, if you felt inspired to take action after listening to this or to be involved then, and potentially in the Christmas appeal, then I've got an idea for you guys. I mentioned in the interview that we were intending to sort of club together and donate as a family towards this. Well, I want to take this one step further and open this up to you guys, the listeners, to see if you'd like to get involved and support. So what I've done is I've set up a Just Giving page, and what I'd love to be able to do is between us all to be able to help give 10 families a Christmas to remember. So basically, what does that look like? Well, each hamper costs about £75, and it's full of fruit and vegetables for the week, and it's got presents in there for the kids, and it's got crackers in there so they can enjoy Christmas. So we'll be looking between us to raise £750. So between my wife's Ruth's family and my family, we've got 2 hampers covered. So I'd love it if between the rest of us we could get involved, and any amount is absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be the amount to the price of a hamper, but if a few of you club in together, then it's possible. But if not, then as little as £5 or £10 is still absolutely amazing and goes a long way to helping in some way. I know personally that on Christmas Day, my food's gonna taste a bit better for me knowing that I've got involved with this charity and stuff. And then also another way we can go, if you want, you can help volunteer, which Stephen spoke about. I've now got the dates for that for him, so it's going to be on the 15th and the 17th of December, just outside Liverpool city centre. So if anyone wants to get involved in that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to include all links and stuff in the show notes to this so you can find out all that you need. So anyway, that's it for me in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and until next time, have a good one.